The tall glass towers of Hayes Global shimmered like cold silver against the night sky, their upper floors still glowing with the soft residue of work long concluded. It was nearly 10 p.m., the hour when the city's elite were already home sipping wine, and only the forgotten souls remained behind. Ethan Ward, a 33-year-old janitor with weary eyes and calloused hands, silently pushed his cleaning cart out of the elevator onto the 32nd floor, the executive area that smelled of power and sterile decisions. He worked slowly, carefully, as though afraid to disturb ghosts that lived in these empty halls. The world saw him as invisible, but little did they know he once played to filled theaters before life crushed his dreams and love was stolen by tragedy. Tonight, after mopping the glass corridors and polishing the marble surfaces, his heart pulled him again to the forgotten music room at the far end, a soundproof chamber that no executive had touched in years. Inside rested a Steinway grand piano, covered in a white sheet like a coffin. He gently removed the cloth and sat before the keys, and for the first time all day, he exhaled. Music wasn't a hobby to him. It was oxygen. He placed his fingers softly, but before he could press a note, he heard it, a soft humming. A voice. Uncertain. Fragile. As if light itself was trying to sing. His pulse jumped. He wasn't alone. The sound came from the far corner, where the dim track lights left a sliver of gold. Sitting quietly, small legs dangling, was a young girl, perhaps 9 years old, her pale hands tracing the piano's surface, not playing, but searching. Blindly, her eyes remained closed, yet she turned her face toward him with unshaken serenity. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered immediately, almost bowing. "I didn't know anyone was here." The girl tilted her head with a gentle smile. "Did you come to play?" He froze. How did she know? He carefully approached, and it was then he saw the glassy stillness in her eyes. She wasn't closing them. She couldn't see at all, heart tightening. He knelt gently beside her. "What's your name?" he asked softly. Grace, and you sound like someone who's lonely. The words sliced him deeper than she could understand. He swallowed thickly. She lifted her hand toward him, not knowing how close or far he was, and Ethan, almost instinctively, guided it to the piano keys. "Can you play something happy?" she whispered. Ethan's breath trembled. He hadn't played since his late wife's funeral. But something in Grace, this blind child alone in a skyscraper, felt like a soul calling another back to life. So he sat beside her, positioned her tiny hands with care, and pressed the first note. And in that quiet room of marble and forgotten hearts, a janitor and a blind girl began to create light. The first note Ethan played seemed to float gently in the air like a delicate feather, and Grace instantly smiled. As if she could see the sound. The muscles in his tense shoulders slowly loosened, and what began as hesitation became a flow he couldn't resist. The piano keys, once silent for years, came alive beneath his fingertips like an old friend welcoming him home. Grace's small hands followed his, not perfectly, but with a strange, emotional precision, as though her soul knew the song even if her fingers didn't. She leaned slightly closer, listening not to the music but to him, to the way his breathing synced with the notes. "This sounds like someone falling in love," she whispered. Ethan's fingers froze for a moment. It was the lullaby he wrote for Lily, his daughter, back when his wife was still alive, when life was warm and safe and laughter filled their tiny home. He swallowed a wave of emotion before he could drown in it. Grace tilted her head sweetly. "Don't stop." And somehow, that command held more power over him than anything any boss had ever said. So he kept playing. Time became meaningless. The world outside, traffic, elevators, deadlines, faded away. Only two souls existed here, a blind girl finding light through sound, and a broken man rediscovering heartbeat through music. Grace, fearless despite her darkness, asked him questions while playing. "Do you have children?" He hesitated. "Why lie?" "A daughter. Her name is Lily." Grace smiled wider, fingertips pressing gently into a high note. Does she smile like this song? The question shattered him. Lily didn't smile anymore. Not since the night she watched paramedics pull her mother's lifeless body from their car wreck. He hid the pain in a chuckle. She used to. Grace didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Blindness had made her senses sharper, she could feel emotions like temperature. Then, without warning, footsteps echoed faintly outside. Ethan stiffened. This room was restricted. If anyone from management saw a janitor here, he would be fired instantly. But Grace remained calm, as if footsteps held no threat in her world. She whispered, "Don't stop playing. Please." He hesitated, then obeyed. Their melody swelled, growing stronger, braver, a fragile duet that felt like defiance against a world that had forgotten tenderness. Grace softly added words, she began to hum, not lyrics, but the emotion of the song. And suddenly, Ethan wasn't leading anymore, he was following her. And just then, the footsteps stopped outside the door. Neither of them knew it. A figure stood silently in the shadowed hallway, fierce. Powerful. Listening. The final notes drifted to silence like a prayer whispered into heaven. Grace turned her face toward him, smiling with warmth that could thaw winters. "You play with your heart," she said. "People who listen to you can see." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time in years, he believed her. Ethan's fingers slowly lifted off the piano, the last trembling note still echoing softly in the silent room like the afterglow of a dream. Grace's faint humming faded with it until there was nothing but the sound of their breaths. It was peaceful, but Ethan's instincts, sharpened by hardship and survival, whispered danger. Something felt different in the air. Watched. He turned his head slightly toward the glass doors, and in that split second, the door clicked open. Ethan shot up from the piano as if caught committing a crime. The sight before him made his blood run cold. A tall woman in an immaculate black suit stood at the threshold, the kind of powerful aura that silenced boardrooms before she even spoke. Alexandra Hayes, CEO of Hayes Global. One of the most feared and respected women in the business world. Ethan instantly stepped back, heart hammering. The mop, the uniform, the reminder that he was not supposed to be here, slammed painfully into his chest. "Sir," Alexandra's voice was calm. Too calm. "What are you doing?" Grace instantly turned toward the sound of her mother. Her face lit up, a mix of joy and panic. "Mom, listen, he plays in colors." Alexandra's eyes flicked to her daughter, then back to Ethan. No visible anger. No emotion at all. Just unreadable stillness. Ethan lowered his gaze. "I apologize, ma'am. I shouldn't be here. I'll leave immediately." He stepped back, but Grace, unaware of the storm, reached out and tugged gently at Ethan's sleeve. "He wasn't doing anything bad. You should hear the way he, Grace." Alexandra's voice softened just one fraction. "Come here." Grace hesitated, the first time she didn't instantly obey her mother. "Only if he stays." That statement, that innocent ultimatum, froze the room. Alexandra slowly walked toward them, heels silent on the polished floor. Ethan instinctively backed away from the piano like it was illegal to have touched it. But before he could leave, Alexandra spoke, not to him, but to Grace. "Was he the one playing yesterday too?" Grace nodded eagerly. "He makes the music feel warm." There was a pause, not long, but long enough for Ethan's future to hang in the air. Then, something impossible happened. Alexandra turned to Ethan. "Play." One word. Sharp. Commanding. Ethan blinked. "Ma'am." "I play," she repeated, not cold, but with an edge of curiosity he didn't expect. Ethan glanced at the exit. At his mop. At his trembling hands. At the blind child whose trust already lived in his music. He sat down. Gently. almost reverently. And as his hands touched the keys again, Alexandra took one slow step forward. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. She simply listened, and Ethan, in that moment, didn't play for survival. He played like a man remembering the person he once was, and the woman who had forgotten how to felt. Ethan didn't know how long he played, only that the room no longer felt like a corporate building. It felt like a confession. Every note carried something he had buried, the love he lost, the weight he carried, the daughter waiting alone at home every night. Grace sat beside him, eyes closed, smiling in pure faith. And Alexandra Hayes, the woman whose signature could reshuffle entire industries, stood utterly still. No boardroom armor. No commanding voice. Just, listening. The final note fell like a soft goodbye, dissolving into the air. Silence followed. So thick it felt sacred. Ethan slowly withdrew his hands and stood immediately, head bowed as though awaiting a verdict. "I apologize," he began quietly. "This won't happen again. Please don't do anything that will. Do you teach?" Alexandra interrupted. Ethan blinked. It took him a second to understand the question. "Teach?" he repeated. Alexandra stepped forward, eyes on the piano, not him. "My daughter has refused every instructor I've hired. She never connected to anyone. And tonight," her voice faltered, barely, but enough to reveal humanity under the steel. This was the first time she wasn't lonely. Grace reached out and held her mother's hand as if confirming it. Alexandra looked at Ethan, and for the first time, truly looked, not at his uniform. Not at his role. But at the man. "Quit your job here," she said calmly. Ethan's heart stopped. "Ma'am?" "Quit," she repeated. "I want you to be Grace's personal music mentor. Full time." Ethan froze, confusion and disbelief clashing violently inside him. "I'm just a janitor. You," Alexandra cut in firmly, "are the only person who has made my daughter feel seen without using her eyes." Grace nodded eagerly, clinging to Ethan's sleeve. "Play for me again tomorrow." His throat tightened. He could barely breathe. I can't afford to quit. I have a daughter. I need stable income." Alexandra didn't blink. "Then name it." Ethan stared. "What?" "Your salary," she said simply, as if she were discussing weather. "Name it. And it's yours." For the first time since his wife died, Ethan's hands trembled not from fear, but from hope. Everything inside him warred, dignity, responsibility, disbelief. But Grace whispered softly, and that was what broke him. "You sound like my daddy should have sounded." His eyes burned. He nodded, slowly, with reverence, not greed. Alexandra extended her hand, a CEO's handshake. But when Ethan took it, it wasn't a deal between employer and employee. It was a mother entrusting her daughter's soul to a man of music. "Come back tomorrow," she said. "Not as janitor. As the man who brought light into my daughter's darkness." For the first time in years. Ethan walked away not as Ethan Ward, the janitor, but as Ethan Ward, the man who was seen. And behind him, Alexandra Hayes whispered to herself, like a confession. "So this is what I've been missing."